Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall.
Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall.
Hollywood had hundreds of radiant beauties in its golden era, but only a few had the ability to render an entire film room breathlessly silent just by their presence. Shelley Duvall was one of them. With a face that was both delicate and eerie, with those hypnotizing, wide-open eyes and a dreamlike, fairy tale energy, she became the unmistakable muse of the 1970s. But behind the spotlight lay a story more surreal than any film she ever starred in. A story of discovery and exploitation, of genius and breaking, about a woman who
For
literally
decades,
hollowed out Hollywood
Shelley Duvall
and spat it
lived
back
in
out.
silence,
And if you think you know the
forgotten,
story of Shelley
mocked,
Duvall,
and
you are
erased by
mistaken.
the star.
Because what
She
the
was born in
headlines showed
Fort Worth,
was
Texas,
only
most
the
notably
surface.
3
What
women.
really happened behind
Her
the scenes,
performance in
on the
3
icy
Women
set
was
of The
hailed as
Shining,
brilliant.
in the dressing rooms of
She
Robert
even
Altman,
won Best
in the
Actress
quiet
at the
rooms of a
Cannes
house
Film
in
Festival.
Texas.
Shelley
That is a
wasn't
story
just
that
another
hardly
actress,
anyone
she was
knows in
different.
full.
And that's
A
what
story
she didn't
that
need to
involves
be.
one of the most
Shelley
brutal
brought something
psychological
real,
experiments
something
ever
raw,
conducted
something
on a film
deeply
set
human.
in the name of art.
Directors
A
wanted
story
her.
about a woman
Critics
who arrived
adored
in
her,
Hollywood by
and
a
soon
pure
she was
accident,
cast alongside
conquered
Robin
by
Stanley
pure instinct,
Kubrick cast her
and
as
lost it
Wendy
in ways
Torrance
that
in
no
The
one,
Shining.
not her fans,
Should have been the
not
role of a
critics,
lifetime.
not even she
But
herself.
Kubrick was
could have
notorious for
predicted. Stay
perfectionism.
until the end,
And
because
with
what you
Shelley,
learn
he
today
took it
will
further.
change the way you see
He
Shelley
isolated
Duvall
her from the
forever.
crew,
And we
belittled her
promise
on
you,
set,
there are
and
details
forced her
in this
through
story
endless
that even the
takes.
most devoted
The famous
fans have
baseball
never
bat
heard.
scene between
The
her and
audience
Jack
was shaken
Nicholson.
when Shelley
They
appeared
filmed it
on Dr. Phil
127
Show in
times.
2016
Her eyes looked
and
sunken,
made deeply disturbing
face
statements
pale.
about her late co-star
While
Robin
Nicholson
Williams.
thrived under
From
Kubrick's
the
pressure,
fragile queen of
Shelley was
art house
destroyed
cinema,
by
she had
it.
become a symbol of
Kubrick later
Hollywood
admitted he
tragedy,
deliberately
a
pushed her
living
to the
testament
brink
the
to
price
capture
one
authentic.
pays when daring to be truly different in the city of illusions. But to understand how she got there, you need to understand where she came from. And it begins somewhere no one would ever think to look for a Hollywood legend. It begins in Texas. Anne Shelley Duvall was born on July 7th, 1949, in Fort Worth, Texas. Her father, Robert, who went by Bobby, worked as a lawyer. Her mother, Lucille, held various jobs over the years, including work as a real estate agent. It was a firmly grounded, working-class family with no connection whatsoever to the entertainment industry, no theater backgrounds, no artistic ambitions, no relatives in the business. Just a regular Texas household raising a very irregular child. Because Shelley was anything but ordinary, even as a little girl.
Fit
She
the
was a
mold.
whirlwind of restless
Hollywood
energy,
thrives on
curious about
power,
everything,
image,
impossible to
and
contain.
control. And
She ran
Shelley,
through
with
the
her
house,
vulnerability, lost her
over,
mind.
chased the family
But the truth
pets,
was simple.
left a trail of
Hollywood
cheerful
had
destruction
abandoned her.
behind her everywhere
In
she went.
2002, for
Her
nearly
long
2
limbs and her
decades,
wide, luminous
Shelley Duvall
eyes
vanished
gave her the look of a
completely
creature
from
from
public
another
life.
dimension entirely.
In 2016, Shelley
mother,
reappeared on
exhausted,
television,
amused,
but
and
not in the
equal
way
measure,
anyone
gave
hoped.
her the nickname Manic
She was
Mouse,
invited on.
a name that sounded like a loving sigh and yet suited her astonishingly well. It would not be the last time someone struggled to find the right word for whatever Shelley Duvall was. But beneath this wild facade lay a deeply sensitive soul. Shelley dreamed of becoming a scientist. She imagined herself standing in a white lab coat, white gloves on her long fingers, bent over microscopes and beakers, deciphering the secrets of the universe. For a girl from Fort Worth, it was an unusual dream, but she held on to it fiercely. Then, a single biology class destroyed it. When the class was required to observe a live dissection, Shelley could not bear it. The sight of an animal in pain, restrained and suffering in the name of education, broke something open inside her. She could not stay in the room. She gave up on science entirely, switched to studying nutrition, and eventually found herself working behind the cosmetics counter of a department store, spraying perfume samples and helping customers choose foundation shades. Her extraordinarily unusual face, angular and pale and hauntingly distinctive, occasionally earned her part-time modeling jobs. Nothing major, nothing that pointed toward anything extraordinary. A quiet life seemed preordained. Then came the night in 1970 that changed everything. That year, Shelley had married the young artist Bernard Sampson. She was devoted to him, believed in his talent, and wanted nothing more than to help him get noticed. So she organized a party, a genuine gathering of Houston's local art scene, specifically to showcase his paintings. She invited people, she decorated, she made sure the night would be memorable. And it was. Just not for the reason she had planned. The guests could not stop looking at Shelley. not at the paintings, not at the carefully arranged room, not at Bernard Sampson's canvases. They looked at Shelley. Among those present were 3 crew members working for the eccentric and visionary film director, Robert Altman. They whispered to each other all evening about her strange, almost colorless eyes, her bird-like, chirping voice, the way she moved through a room as though gravity worked slightly differently for her than it did for everyone else, the boundless, almost electric energy she gave off without any apparent effort. Shortly afterward, they invited Shelley to meet a group of so-called art patrons. Excited and optimistic, she brought along samples of Sampson's work. She had no idea that these patrons were in fact Robert Altman and producer Lou Adler, 2 of the most powerful creative forces in Hollywood at the time, both quietly searching for something new, something they could not yet name. They paid no attention to Sampson's paintings. They stared at Shelley with the intensity of people who have just witnessed something they cannot explain. When the meeting ended, Altman and Adler gently asked, "Would you like to act in a film?" Shelley, eyes wide as a girl who has wandered into Wonderland and cannot quite believe the scenery, nodded. She had a Polaroid taken, left her phone number, and walked out into the Houston night with no idea that she had just signed an invisible contract that would deliver her straight to Hollywood. She thought it might be interesting. She had no idea it would become her entire world. And here is one of the rarest and least known details from Shelley's early life, a detail that makes her career even more extraordinary in retrospect. Despite later being regarded as one of the most expressive and distinctive actresses of her entire generation, Shelley Duvall never received any formal acting training, not a single semester at a conservatory, not a season on the stage, no method classes, no voice coaching, no years spent learning technique under the guidance of a mentor. Robert Altman looked at her at that party and saw something that could not be manufactured or taught. A kind of raw, instinctive truthfulness, an inability to be anything other than exactly what she was in any given moment that he understood instinctively was worth more than any amount of technical polish. He was right, and the next several years would prove it in remarkable ways. In the first 6 or 7 years of her career, Duvall worked almost exclusively with Altman. He became her protector, her creative home, the one person in the industry who understood what she offered and knew how to draw it out of her. He was a director who saw in her something that Hollywood rarely encountered, a celestial, uncontrollable energy that could not be replicated. Her first significant appearance was in his Brewster McCloud in 1970, the same year she was discovered. This was followed by roles in McCabe and Mrs. Miller in 1971, Thieves Like Us in 1974, and the sprawling ensemble masterpiece Nashville in 1975, always under Altman's direction, always with that unmistakable eccentricity that left critics simultaneously puzzled and fascinated. But as the spotlight grew brighter around Shelley, shadows gathered in her personal life. Her marriage to Bernard Sampson did not survive the transformation. The woman who had organized that party to promote his paintings had become something he could not fully recognize or hold. They divorced in 1974. In the aftermath, Duvall made a brief and unsuccessful attempt to deepen her craft through formal training. She enrolled at the prestigious Actors Studio in New York, the legendary institution
I'm Shelley
that
Duvall.
shaped Marlon Brando,
Welcome to Fairy Tale
James
Theatre.
Dean,
Fans
and
were
Marilyn
shocked
Monroe.
when Shelley
She
Duvall,
was
the
lasted
1970s
only a few
actress that
classes.
audiences came
Too
to know
much
and love
theory.
for her distinctive
Too much
look
cold,
and
analytical
odd,
dissection
eccentric
of
characters.
Duvall wanted to burn with instinct.
Her most
not
famous
diagram.
role as Wendy Torrance
walked
in
away
The Shining,
and
however,
never looked back.
might have pushed her
Her
over the
instincts were
edge.
vindicated completely
But there's no
in
question about it.
1977,
The wide-eyed
when Robert
girl
Altman's
was
Three
born
Women
to be a star.
became the defining achievement of her career up to that point.
Her
Duvall's
gentle
famous
heart
It was
and
unlike
stomach
anything else
couldn't
in
take
American
it.
cinema that year. For this film, Duvall
Once
was
she
granted
decided
an
that science wasn't for her,
extraordinary degree of
she went on to
creative
study
freedom.
nutrition
She
and diet
improvised
therapy
almost
at
all
South
of her
Texas
diet.
Junior College.
She wrote personal
She then
diary
found a
entries
job
from
selling
deep inside her
cosmetics at a
character's
department
psychology.
store and put
She
her
personally
distinctive looks to
decorated the
work
set of her
as a
character's
model.
apartment, selecting every object,
It
every
looked
piece
like
of
she was
furniture,
going to lead a
every
fairly
detail
quiet
herself.
life. But then
The result
a chance
was a
encounter
performance of
put
such
her on a
strange,
different
layered
path.
authenticity The critics struggled
In
to find the
1970,
vocabulary
Duvall
to
became
describe it
engaged
adequately.
to and married
The film
an
was not a
artist
commercial
named
juggernaut,
Bernard Sampson.
but the critical world erupted with
To help
admiration.
showcase her
At the
fiancé's
Cannes
work,
Film Festival
Duvall
in
decided to throw a
1977,
party.
Shelley
By
Duvall
chance,
was
3
awarded
members
the
of the
prize for
crew,
Best
unbeknownst
Actress.
to Duvall,
Standing
however,
on that stage
the
in
art
Cannes,
patrons
she
were director
represented something
Robert
genuinely
Altman
rare.
and producer
A
Lou
performer who
Adler.
had arrived in Hollywood
After
by
this,
accident,
her life would
bypassed
never be
every
the same. In order to
conventional
advance her
path,
career,
and
Duvall
arrived at the
reportedly
pinnacle of her
started taking
craft
acting lessons
entirely on her
at
own
the famed
terms.
Actors Studio
But while
in
her
New York.
career was ascending
After
toward its
just a
highest
few
point,
classes,
her
she decided
heart
that it was
navigating
too analytical
considerably more
and
dangerous
technical,
territory.
and she preferred her freewheeling spirit.
Sometime in the mid to late
Her instincts
1970s,
were right.
Duvall met
She
and
was a
fell deeply
natural in
love
front
with
of the
musician
camera,
Paul
and soon
Simon,
the world
one of
would
the
know
most
it.
celebrated singer-songwriters in American
Duvall's
music.
breakout performance
They moved
came in
together New York.
1977's Three
To
Women.
those watching from
Even
the
though it was
outside,
another
it
Altman.
seemed like the perfect union of two extraordinary
Duvall's
creative
performance
spirits.
as Wendy Torrance
But the
in
reality was more
1980's The
complicated.
Shining, Half an Hour for
Painful.
Lunch, for a year
Duvall
and 1
found
month.
herself chronically out of
The role
place in
demanded
Simon's
that she
social
had to
world,
be in hysterics
surrounded by
all the time.
fashionable, polished faces at parties where she
Altman
felt like a
cast
visitor
Duvall
from a
in the
different
role
planet.
of Olive Oil,
She
a
loved
role
him,
that she had
but
been
she could
born
not
to
fully
play.
inhabit the life
Seriously, she had all but stopped
The
any kind of
relationship
work
cost her
in the
professionally
film
as well.
and TV industry.
She turned down
Sometime
a
in
significant role that
2016,
Altman had
Duvall
offered her,
agreed to
a
appear on
decision
an
made at
episode
least
of
partly
Dr.
in the
Phil
service of her
about
relationship
mental
with
health.
Simon.
What she may
It
not have
damaged her
realised,
friendship with
however,
Altman
was that
deeply.
she would be
A
the
friendship
subject
that had been
of
the
the interview. In
cornerstone
part
of her
to her
entire
dramatic
career.
reappearance, Unkrich tracked
And
her
then,
down to a small
Simon
town
withdrew
in Texas
emotionally.
Hill Country.
And in a gesture that revealed the fullness of
When
her
he found her,
generous, selfless
Unkrich
nature,
showed Duvall
Duvall
pictures from the
introduced him
set
to
of The
her
Shining.
closest friend,
As he put
Carrie
it,
Fisher.
I was really
The
too.
actress
Duvall
who would
announced
soon
that she
become
was ending
globally
her
famous as
20-year
Princess
retirement.
Leia
His
in
directors
Star
and her
Wars.
fellow actors
And Simon
showed that
chose
despite her
Fisher.
long absence, nobody
Duvall
had
said
forgotten
goodbye to them both
about
at the
Shelley
airport
Duvall.
with tears
Her work
streaming down
lives
her
on,
face.
still being discovered
She
by
boarded a
new
flight,
generations,
waiting at
and
the
still being
destination
poured.
was a fate named Stanley Kubrick. This is where the story turns cold and dark. The Shining, released in 1980, transformed Shelley Duvall into an everlasting icon of horror cinema. But that icon was constructed through real, sustained, deliberate torment. Kubrick had a vision for Wendy Torrance, the terrorized wife at the center of the story. And that vision required a woman who appeared genuinely desperate, genuinely broken, genuinely cornered and afraid with no resources left. He did not want an actress pretending to those emotions. He wanted a human being experiencing them, and he was willing to do whatever was necessary to engineer that experience in Shelley Duvall. What followed over the next 13 months was, by almost any measure, one of the most psychologically grueling episodes in the history of professional filmmaking. Kubrick established a clear hierarchy on set from the very beginning. Jack Nicholson, playing the terrifying Jack Torrance, was treated as a collaborator and creative equal. He was consulted, appreciated, celebrated. Duvall was treated as something closer to a subject in an experiment. Kubrick yelled at her regularly, sometimes in front of the entire crew. He blamed her publicly for wasting the production's time. He isolated her from her co-stars so that she had no supportive relationships on set to fall back on. He created a frosty psychological prison around her, and she was the only inmate. Duvall worked 6 days a week, 12 to 16 hours each day, for more than 13 months without any meaningful rest. She cried until her body had nothing left to give. She carried a water bottle with her at all times because the exhaustion and dehydration were constant physical threats. Between takes, Kubrick explicitly instructed everyone on set, the crew, the other actors, the production staff, not to offer Duvall any comfort. No kind words, no reassuring hand on the shoulder, nothing. He did not want her consoled. He wanted her worn down. He wanted the armor off and the raw nerve exposed. He was not interested in her as a person. He was interested in what she could produce when pushed past every limit. Vivian Kubrick, the director's daughter, documented the production in her short film Making the Shining and offered the world a window into what was happening behind the scenes. What she captured was not the normal chaos of a difficult shoot. It was something more methodical, a controlled, sustained, intentional process of psychological erosion. The single most infamous scene from this entire ordeal is the baseball bat sequence in which Wendy Torrance stands on a staircase, screaming and trembling, holding a baseball bat between herself and her homicidal husband. For that scene alone, Kubrick required Duvall to repeat the performance 127 times, 127 takes, a number that still stands as a record in the history of cinema. Every swing of the bat was real effort. Every tear was genuinely wrung out of a woman who had been standing in that staircase for hours, for days, until there was
A lot of
nothing
Ullman giving a
artificial
tour
left
of
in
the
her
overlook.
We're all
Her
going to
body
have
began
to
to break
the
down under
27th and
pressure.
29th
Her
take,
hair
but
started falling out
to
in
get
clumps.
those, he had to work
Physical
his way through.
manifestation of the
It's very
struggle
difficult.
was
Done more than,
consuming
say,
her from the
15
inside.
takes before in my
When
life.
production finally wrapped,
So it was a great
Duvall
change for
collected
me
the fallen
to,
hair and brought it to Kubrick.
do so many.
She presented
But
it to him
then,
as silent,
after you do
physical
a certain
evidence of what
number,
he had taken from
it sort
her
of
in the
goes
name of his
dead.
film.
And then
Hollywood
5
delivered
more
its
takes or
verdict
so,
on her
and it revives
sacrifice.
itself.
No Oscar nomination.
I was
no
really in and
recognition
out
from
of
the major
ill health
critic circles.
because the stress
Instead,
of the role
Shelley Duvall received
was so
a nomination from the Razzie
and
Awards for Worst
the stress
Actress
of
the
being
Year.
away from home, just
It remains
uprooted
one of the most
and
staggering
moved
acts of
somewhere else, and I had just gotten out of a
institutional blindness in the history
relationship,
of the entertainment industry.
and
More of the film,
A
she
woman
almost had to
given her
constantly
physical
be in a
health,
state of
her
hysterics and
psychological
crying.
stability, and more than
It
a
was,
year
if you
of
can
her
see
life
just
to
a little bit
produce
on
one
her
of the
face,
most
she's got this
viscerally
glistening,
affecting
and after a while
performances
she
in a film
ran
that
out
would
of tears, so
eventually be recognized
she
as
was
a
almost
masterpiece.
permanently daubed and
industry's
glycerine
response
because
was
it was about the only way she looked like she was
Decades
crying.
later, when broader
By the
understanding
time they
of
got
what
to
Duvall
shooting the
had
scene in
actually
which Wendy
endured on
locks
that
Jack
set
in the
had
larder,
spread through
Shelley was
popular culture,
really struggling.
one of the
In the book,
co-founders
Kubrick
of
and
the
Oz,
Razzie
she's just
Awards
pacing,
publicly
right? She's trying to
addressed the
figure out how to
nomination.
escape the hotel.
Another
Another one of those
acknowledged
moments
that it had
people
been
point
wrong.
to when they
He
say
withdrew
Kubrick was
officially.
purposely
A gesture
manipulating
that
Shelley's
arrived far too
emotions
late
in
to
order to get a
undo
good
the real
performance.
difference.
Her running around and
Represented
screaming
at least a
in a
form of
panicked
admission
state.
to injustice.
React to the ghost.
And through
React
all
to the
of this,
skeletons.
Shelley
Just
Duvall
now, just
never
react.
expressed public
Run,
feelings toward
run
Kubrick.
around, scream
She spoke of him
again,
with
run
respect.
around,
She said
scream
she
again,
liked
run
him.
around, scream.
As if the
The
suffering
infamous
had been,
staircase scene
in some
is an
fundamental
example.
sense,
In Unkrish's
part of an
book, Shelley
agreement
said,
she
quote,
had
to the
art
camera,
itself.
to Vivian about the whole
Perhaps that
situation.
strange,
But what we
quiet
don't see in the
acceptance was
documentary,
playing
playing chess with
courage.
him, something Kubrick often
Perhaps
did
it was
with
the
cast
scar
and crew
tissue of
members.
someone who had
They
learned not to expect fairness from the machine. After the nightmare of The Shining came something gentler. Robert Altman called again. He was making a big, bold, colorful musical adaptation of the Popeye comic strip, and he wanted Duvall for Olive Oil. Friends and colleagues had been joking for years that she had been biologically constructed for this role. Her angular face, her enormous eyes, her long, improbable limbs, her distinctive voice. Everything about her mapped onto the cartoon character with an uncanny precision that no amount of casting deliberation could have manufactured. Altman had not forgotten her, even after the damage done to their friendship. He celebrated her. Popeye was released in 1980, the same year as The Shining, and the contrast between the two performances offered audiences a remarkable demonstration of Duvall's range. The same woman who had trembled with authentic terror on Kubrick's staircase now bounced through a pastel seaside village with flamboyant comic timing and a peculiar sweetness that charmed audiences even when critics were ambivalent about the film itself. Roger Ebert singled her out for particular praise, describing her as a presence of extraordinary distinctiveness, fragile and funny simultaneously. She loved playing Olive Oil. She said so openly. Perhaps because it was the first time in years she had been allowed to use joy as her primary instrument rather than fear. It seemed, standing at the beginning of the 1980s with 2 major films behind her and a Cannes Prize on her shelf, that Shelley Duvall was on the verge of something large, that the industry would finally find the right container for whatever she was. Instead, she stepped sideways. And then she stepped away. Not all at once, and not dramatically. She made a few more film appearances in the early 1980s, but her focus shifted significantly. She founded her own production company, Think Entertainment, and threw herself into creating children's television programming. The flagship project was Fairy Tale Theater, a series that ran from 1982 to 1987 and reimagined classic fairy tales with top-tier Hollywood talent. Duvall produced every episode, frequently hosted the series, and occasionally acted in it as well. The show earned widespread affection and multiple Emmy nominations. It was, in its way, a reflection of her deepest sensibility, a love of the strange, the magical, the stories that exist just at the edge of the real world. But it was not Hollywood stardom. And as the years passed, the distance between Shelley Duvall and the industry that had both celebrated and consumed her grew wider and wider. Then the Northridge earthquake struck on January 17, 1994. A massive, devastating 6.7 magnitude quake that tore through the Los Angeles basin, killing dozens of people, injuring thousands, and destroying or seriously damaging hundreds of thousands of structures. Duvall's home was among the casualties. The earthquake shook something loose in her beyond the physical damage. She made her decision. She packed what she had and left Los Angeles quietly, without announcement or ceremony. She drove east, back to Texas, back to the Texas Hill Country, to a small town called Blanco, far from cameras and carpets and the entire overwhelming machinery of the entertainment world. From 2002 onward, her name nearly ceased to appear in Hollywood at all, as if Wendy Torrance had finally walked through the Overlook Hotel's front door one last time and disappeared into the snow. Until 2016. Her appearance on the Dr. Phil show that year was announced as an opportunity for Duvall to speak about her mental health. What television audiences saw when she walked onto that stage was deeply unsettling. She was gaunt and frail in a way that went beyond simple aging. Her eyes, those famous enormous eyes, looked hollowed and distant, and what she said silenced the studio. She spoke about Robin Williams, with whom she had shared the Popeye set in 1980. Williams had died in August 2014, and the world had mourned him enormously. But Duvall told the audience that he was not dead, that he was, in fact, still alive, and was a shape-shifting being. She spoke of being pursued by the sheriff of Nottingham. She described aliens who had implanted a tracking device in her leg. She talked about wasps that had once invaded and attacked her spinal cord. The internet reacted with immediate and overwhelming emotion: horror, sorrow, anger. Psychiatrists who watched clips of the appearance stated publicly that what they were observing suggested the symptoms of a serious, untreated psychotic illness, and that this woman needed urgent medical intervention, not a television audience. The accusation leveled at Dr. Phil McGraw was pointed and nearly universal: that he had exploited a vulnerable, mentally ill woman for ratings, dressing up what was essentially a mental health crisis as entertainment. Vivian Kubrick, who had watched Duvall's psychological deterioration begin on her father's set 40 years earlier, released a sharp public statement condemning the appearance. She did not mince words. She called it exploitation. She said that Shelley Duvall deserved care, not cameras. But something unexpected emerged from that painful spectacle. Lee Unkrich, the celebrated Pixar director who had been assembling material for a comprehensive book about The Shining for years and had been searching for Duvall to interview her, saw the broadcast and learned from it where she was living. He made the journey to Blanco. He arrived nervous, genuinely afraid that the woman he had admired might no longer be able to access the memories and experiences he had hoped to document. What he found surprised him profoundly. In between moments of disorientation and unusual excitement, Duvall was capable of talking about her career with remarkable clarity and specificity. She remembered fine details from productions that had taken place decades earlier. She recalled specific conversations. She quoted things people had said to her on sets in the 1970s, and she was proud, genuinely, unmistakably proud of what she had created and what she had endured to create it. When Unkrich showed her photographs from The Shining set, her face changed. Something came alive behind her eyes. In 2022, she announced that she was returning to acting. An independent horror film called The Forest Hills had cast her. The announcement reverberated through film communities online with a combination of genuine joy and cautious anxiety. People wanted this for her. They wanted the story to have one more chapter. The film was released in 2023 to mixed critical reception, but Duvall's presence in it was described by many viewers as a moving, even profound experience, not a triumphant Hollywood comeback engineered by publicists and press releases. Something quieter and more honest than that. A woman appearing on a screen again and reminding anyone who was paying attention that she had never really gone anywhere, that whatever it was she had, it was still there. And then, on July 11th, 2024, Shelley Duvall died at home in Blanco, Texas. She was 75 years old. The cause was complications arising from the diabetes she had been managing for years. Her longtime partner, Dan Gilroy, who had been with her since the late 1980s, was at her side. The tributes came immediately and from everywhere. Directors and writers and actors who had worked with her or simply grown up watching her, all of them found words for what she had meant, not just as a performer, as a presence, as a reminder of what cinema can be when it makes room for someone who genuinely cannot be replicated or replaced. What Shelley Duvall left behind does not age. The trembling, resourceful, heartbreaking Wendy Torrance, fighting for her life with a baseball bat on a snow-covered staircase.
She spoke about
The lanky,
conspiracies,
sweet,
claimed
gloriously
people she
funny
knew
Olive
were
Oyl,
still alive,
spinning through a comic
and looked
strip
like a
arbor
shadow
that
of her
Hollywood
treats
the
those it
strange,
no
dreamy
longer
woman at the
finds
center
useful.
of 3 women.
Why did Hollywood
for whom no
erase Shelley
critical
Duvall?
vocabulary has
The
ever
answer is
quite
brutal.
been adequate.
She
Human,
didn't.
and beneath all of
Kubrick's
those
torment left
performances,
scars
a life
that never
played
healed.
out with the structure
Executives
and emotional
labeled her
intensity of a
unstable
surreal
and stopped
film
hiring
with no
her.
tidy
And when she
resolution.
disappeared, no one in
She was
power
not a
cared
product
enough
of
to
the
check on
Hollywood
her.
system. She was a
Shelley
natural
Duvall
force
wasn't
that the
erased
system
because
caught
she
briefly,
failed.
used,
She was
upbraided,
erased because
and eventually
Hollywood
lost
never
hold
wanted
of
to protect
entirely.
her. The
She
Shining
escaped not through triumph, but through persistence and through a stubborn, almost mystical refusal to be fully consumed. New generations keep finding her, and when they do, they find not just an actress, but a mirror, a reflection of what it genuinely costs to be irreducibly yourself in an industry built on the manufacture of imitations. Shelley Duvall could not be imitated. She could not be replaced. She could not be forgotten. Her name will remain. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate notifications so you never miss a new video about the stars of Hollywood. We will see you in the next video.